Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Do you sometimes wish that you could get into a better habit or habits in life? Do you sometimes get mad at yourself because you're not eating right, or you're not exercising enough, or you're overindulging, or whatever it is you're doing, and then you literally get mad at yourself and you know you could do something differently that would improve your life? Well, if you can relate to anything I'm saying, stay tuned, because I am so happy to introduce to you Sylvie Heyman, who is the author of Make It a Habit, Creating Health and Happiness for Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. I'm going to repeat that. Make it a habit, creating health and happiness for your body, mind, and spirit. Well, welcome, Sylvie Heyman.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Wow. And I interviewed you. I'm introducing you now. I interviewed you a few months ago on your book about your own life experience, kind of just being one step ahead of the Holocaust, fleeing Hitler, and all that it did, how that impacted your life, going from country to country before you finally got to the United States. Refresh my memory, the name of your book, Sylvie?
Beyond the Holocaust.
Beyond.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Beyond the Holocaust, which I read from cover to cover with my, whatever that expression is, with bated breath. Oh, my word, what you've gone through, and you have become a health professional. You're a doctor of everything. You're a doctor of chiropractic, and you are an RN, and you are an MPS, massage professional. Amazing. So
Actually,
you're,
acupuncture.
what is it?
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture. Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Acupuncturist. That's incredible to learn all that. Wow. So you are inside and outside when it comes to health, Sylvie Heyman. So tell us, what caused you to be so health conscious to the point where you actually wrote a book called Make It a Habit?
Well, that does have a little story behind it. You know, my intention at the time was really to write a book about habits so that I could get into a library in New York City, where I had just moved, and be able to give some talks about it and hopefully leave my book there. Well, it wasn't all that easy. They said, yeah, sure. And of course, I never heard from them. And I knew that somewhere along the line, I had heard that, you know what, if you have a book out there, life is much easier. So I, started to do that. And in the process of writing a book about, Make It a Habit, in that process, I fell in love with writing.
Wow.
Writing, it was almost like something that was always deep into my soul, and it needed to come out. And even though I didn't realize that it was coming out for that reason, by the time I finished the book, to tell you the truth, I didn't care if I got into the library to talk about the habit or anything. I just was happy that I had written a book and said what I wanted to say. But it needed to be said.
It needed to be said. So with your background, you wanted to get a book out. You wanted to show the world what you could offer, how you could help, why people should listen to you. And you chose creating good habits. So I'm fascinated by your coverage of it, because you include helping children form positive habits. You include the spiritual, you call it habits of the spirit, and you explain the neuroscience and psychology of habits. So, Sylvie Heyman, just start anywhere because we want to hear your wisdom on this.
Well, habits are hard, as we all know, to get on the road. And the one that has to do with health is even harder. And I wanted to help people because in my own practice, I had many patients who were coming over and over again, say, for instance, for knee issues or lower extremity issues, and they were all very, very overweight. And my way of dealing with that is, you know what, you need to really lose 20 pounds or 30 or what. And I would leave it at that. You need to lose. And they would say, oh, yes, Dr. Heyman, I totally agree. I need to do that. And then I would see them again a few months later, again with problems with their extremities and the knees, and they had lost weight. And I thought,
so may I interrupt you, Sylvie, for a moment? Did they come to you for acupuncture?
No, they came. Well, some of them did. Some of them, I had a dual practice. So some of them said, can you treat me with chiropractic? Or some of them prefer to be treated with acupuncture. But the idea is that they came with a problem that was repeating.
Right, exactly. Mm-hmm.
I was giving ridiculous advice. What do you mean, lose weight? So how do I do that, doctor? But nobody ever had. And I didn't know. So I dwelled into it, and I realized that I was the culprit. I was not guiding my patient well. And P.S., I think that unfortunately a lot of medicine is that way these days because we have such a population of people who need to be taken care of that the background of keeping healthy is kind of put second place. And the important thing is to treat the problem. But the problem we have to do because we weren't leading a healthy life. And I started to write it and realized that, habits is not something you can just decide one day to another. Hey, I'm going to have a habit to do this. It has to be very, very tiny. Like
tiny what?
The habit. So, for instance, if you wanted to, what do you call that? Your teeth,
floss.
Yeah,
floss.
My foreignness comes out from time to time. If you wanted to floss your teeth, and you say, I just can't get into that habit. So, some other psychologists have really pointed out that what you can do is go ahead and brush your teeth every morning like you do. Get you a little string out there and one tooth. Just one tooth.
One tooth. How
and you put it down and you go on. You do that every single day. And guaranteed by the second week you're going to get bored. And you're going to do, well, if I'm doing one, I can do two. And if I can do three. And before you know it, you're doing dental flossing.
I never in a million years would have thought of flossing one tooth. What an example. Wow.
And there are other, for instance, one of the biggest ones is exercise at the beginning of the year. I'm going to lose weight. I want to get healthy. I want to exercise. And so they go and they sign up for a health club and they go crazy 5 days a week.
New Year's resolutions, right? New Year's resolutions.
And they go crazy with it, and then they're exhausted and they hate it and they're sore all over. And before you know it, 3 months went by, they didn't even go near the health club.
Yes.
So my suggestion is you go to the health club, but you only go to look at it. You put your sneakers on, on. Yeah, you just go to visit the health club. Hi there. Hello, machine. Nice to meet you. We'll be back, but not quite yet. We'll get acquainted first. Honestly, you just make a little game out of it, but you go out there every day. Well, what's going to happen is that it became a habit to just simply go to the club, and you're there already.
Yeah.
So you start with the machines, and you get into that very gradually, very slowly.
Very gradually and slowly. So how would that work with overweight? By the way, there's a strong link between COVID and obesity, which I'm sure you know. which isn't talked about much. I find that's rather interesting.
Absolutely. I mean, obesity is a culprit of many, many health issues, physical health issues.
Yes, yes.
Well,
So how would you do something like that regarding losing weight, getting to your healthy weight?
well, the whole idea is to start very little and to start very small. So if, for instance, you wanted to change your diet, so maybe you make a schedule where maybe twice a week you have a little diet that you are going to do that day. It's going to be, the eggs and the salads and whatever, but you know that this is a low-cal diet that's going to get you there. But you don't do it every day. You don't do it every day. You assign yourself maybe once a week or twice a week. And then on that day, you say, oh, today is the day that I'm going to do that. And
How interesting.
and eventually you go, you know what? I got into the habit. I like it. And you start doing it. And automatically, it becomes a habit because the habit has to be something that you don't think about.
You don't think about. Exactly. Yes, you had talked about that in your book. And yes, so I was just going to ask you, what is the nature of something being a habit? And so tell us more. You don't think about it. It becomes automatic. Is that what we call a habit?
Yes, because you form a loop. A loop is a behavior that you do, and then it takes you to the next level, and you go, you either enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you're going to want to repeat it. So that's how habits get started. It's, you see something, you do something, you enjoy it, it was pleasurable, whatever reason. Maybe you like the way you looked, or you like the way you felt, or it was tasty, or whatever. And then you loop it around and you keep doing it until all of a sudden, it's not even something you think about. When I was giving talks about it, I gave a little skit on the stage about the chocolate. And I walk down the aisle and I go, oh, look at that. There's a chocolaterie here. How lovely. And then you go in there and you take a look and you go, oh, I never knew the store was here. But then you had to go to your business and you do. Next time around, you're in the same street, going in the same way because you're going to work, same shaman and everything. And then you look at this place and you go. And I said, I'm going to go in. I'm just going to buy a few maybe. And you do this for a while. And before you know it, one day, you could be thinking about how am I going to do my presentation at work? I have some people that I'm going to think and you're there in the chocolate store without even realizing that you're there.
Yeah.
And think about it. Because now it's no longer, the idea is no longer going through the cerebral cortex.
Wow.
Think about it. It's going into a center of the brain where it's just automatic. You automatically are on the phone talking to somebody and you're buying the chocolates without even realizing it. And that became a habit.
So we know very well how to form bad habits, right, Sylvie?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
You just go ahead and you associate. For instance, as a psychotherapist, I do a lot of work with people who think of themselves as compulsive overeaters. And that there's an automatic sense of despair equals food, right? Despair equals food. It's my default action, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how, and I help people break that. You can have despair and you don't have to eat that food. What else can you do when you are in despair? Number one, you feel the despair. As a body-mind therapist, that's what I tell people. Yes. Wow. Yes.
So that's what I mean. You say little by little.
Little by little. Little by little. I like that term, little by little. So what does it, in terms of neuroscience, what does it mean to form a loop?
Well, you form a loop when you are doing a behavior and then the behavior either brings you pleasure of some sort, and then you say, okay, I like that. So it goes around, and next time you have an opportunity, you again do the same kind of behavior that gives you the same kind of result, and that starts to become a habit. And this is probably what happens with these people who use food as a way of giving some sort of more than just food for the body is a psychological gain that they feel, because whenever they had that food at the time, they enjoyed it. And they get into that pattern of using the food as a way of satisfying their need. So one of them, of course, I mean, I think I had the AAA, which one of the first things about the AAA is you have to be aware.
Right. Tell us the AAA.
Yeah. So it's awareness, and it's an action plan. And I had to find another A. So the other A is accountability. And that really is important. When you have a project like that, you want to align yourself with someone who is going to encourage you, not say things, oh, you're a bad girl, you went off your diet, nothing like that, but rather to encourage you. And to
right.
So the AAA is, the first thing is you have to be aware that this is leading into a very bad situation, and you want to do something about it. And something about it is really, sometimes it does need to talk to a professional and say, can you help me with this? How am I going to go about it? And you don't want to get rid of a lot of habits, only one at a time. Only one at a time.
Only one at a time. I've always contended that, Sylvie Heyman, that I've done a lot of changing in my life to move out of survival into thrival. And I couldn't make any more than one major change in my life at a time. And that my sense of it is that I have a home base of what is known and familiar while I am embarking on some new behavior. So I keep that sense of security, because change is tough, would you say, for human beings?
Change is very, very difficult, yes. And the problem that most of us, all of us, tend to do is that we want it right away. We want the gratification. We want instant gratification. We decided, we made a major decision, and it's not an easy one, but we want it done. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work because it's too drastic a change from what you were before to what you were, where you want to go. So it has to be done in a more methodical and scientific way. And as I said, little by little, the dental floss, the push-up, you go down, you want to exercise, don't go to the gym and start a class and do all that and come back so or that you can't even move. No, you go in there and you just try one machine. Actually, if you want to make a point of it, is you get up, you go to the gym, you go down to the mat, you do one push-up, and then you get dressed again and you go to work. One push-up. You go
Isn't that
one thing. You can choose. You can choose what you want to do. It doesn't have to be a push-up, but it's an example. But you can just say, one machine, I'll do it 5 times. Bye. Now, how many times can you do that without finally saying, okay, I'm here already. Let me do 10 times.
Yeah. And you want to. That's the thing, right? You want to. I teach a course called Declutter Your Stuff, Declutter Your Life at Nassau Community College. Uh-huh. And I say to my students, I do an all-day Saturday. So I say, don't go home and declutter your whole house in the rest of the weekend. Many people do that. They report to me that they go home and they are so motivated that they do a lot of decluttering. However, don't get to the point of exhaustion.
Right. That's
and then it becomes too much.
Exactly.
So I want to really talk to you about this concept of reward and instant gratification, because the nature of weight loss is that there's no way it can be instant. All you know in the moment is that everybody else is eating the cake but you. So what on earth do you do with that?
Well, you prepare yourself ahead of time. You're going to go to a social function, and you know that you're going to be attracted to the buffet table. And so you take a few steps. And one of the things that a lot of people do is when they have something like that, they'll starve the whole day. And then they go to the function and they eat. But what I would suggest is that you actually eat your little small meals every 2 hours so that you're never really hungry, and go to that event already not hungry. And then when you're there,
Wow.
you're aware of the fact you know what you're going to see. Again, it's all about being prepared and being aware. You don't want that beautiful table with all those wonderful salads and sandwiches and whatnot to sort of make you fall in love with it and want to go to it. You are prepared. You know what you're going to see, and you decide ahead of time. And you look around, and what I do, and I still do it. I'm actually quite thin at this point.
Yes, you are.
I still do it. I go and I pick and choose. I have tiny, and if it's a buffet table, for instance, and even if it's like a big Thanksgiving dinner, I take a small little biteful of everything. I don't feel that I'm denying myself anything. I take a biteful, and I'm perfectly happy with that. And but if you do this ahead of time and you plan it ahead of time, you will be ready to do it, and you won't mind it at all. You won't mind it, or you won't be that hungry anyway because you've already eaten something, and you're not going in there to eat. You're going there to meet people. You make that connection in your mind, and then you are aware of what you're going to be doing, and you take small little bits of it. And I tell you, I have trouble sometimes.
Wow.
I ask people, "Oh, just give me just less than that," and they look at me like, "So there's almost nothing here. That's fine.
Yeah.
A teaspoon, and that's good enough." And it works.
So Sylvie Heyman, Heyman. I just want to tell everyone you are the author of a book called Make It a Habit, Creating Health and Happiness for Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. And where can we get your book, Sylvie?
Amazon. You can get it from the publishing house, but it's easier to just go to Amazon and just jot down the name of it.
Yes.
And
make it a habit. And is there any way, are you interested in allowing the public to get in touch with you?
I'm always, I'm the kind of a person that I like helping people. I guess that's why I became a nurse and, everything else. I could never turn my head away from somebody who is asking me, will you help me? So yes, I would help, as long as they know, hey, it's not going to be a professional thing in terms of I'm not going to charge you. It's not a business, but I am here to support you.
So Sylvie Heyman, Heyman, author of Make It a Habit, and also your book Beyond the Holocaust, which is incredibly fascinating to read. So Sylvie, the good news is that we're coming back next week. So because I want to ask you a very big question that we only have a few minutes left that will take longer to answer. So here's the question. But first, I have to ask permission of you. May I give you pushback on this thing called little by little? Have a bite of this and a bite of that. Can I give you some pushback on that?
Absolutely. I don't really understand what pushback is, but whatever you ask.
Can I take you on about that? Okay, here it is, Sylvie. I am a sweet addict in recovery. Okay? So what that means is I grew up not only eating sugar, but hiding my eating sugar habit. I was a chubby kid. Well, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? I was a lonely kid. I was an unhappy kid. And I was lonely between school and dinner. So I would go across the big street when I got permission to do that to the local candy store and buy chocolate bars. And I spent my afternoon very slowly savoring those chocolate bars because there was more than one. It may have been two or even three. I don't remember if it was actually three, but, because I was a kid. But I grew up using sweets to comfort me. And talk about a habit, right? Talk about a bad habit. Now, then when I was conscious, I was a teenager and I wanted to look good and I wanted to lose weight. And so I went to lose weight and I started with this thing called Metrical at the time, which was like we have shakes now, and it was a diet drink as a substitute for a meal, and it tasted god awful. I actually had to hold my nose to drink it. That's how bad it tasted. Well, that didn't last too long, but I was constantly on the loop, bad loop, the, feast or famine, either dieting or overeating. So then in my times of trying to lose weight, when everybody around me would be having dessert, I would sit there not having it, but I would obviously be lusting after it. It's called lusting after the food. So then people would say to me, "Oh, you can have one piece," because they would see that I wanted it. So they wanted to help me. And sometimes I said, "Oh, you're right, I can have one piece." And of course, for me as an addict, it would go into much more than one piece. So I have not eaten any sugar for 6 years, and I am so happy. I am happier than I've ever been in my life. But this does defy what you're saying about a little bite and moderation in certain things. So what do you say to that, Sylvie?
That really comes right back to the AAA.
Yeah.
It's an awareness. It's all saying, oh my God, what am I doing? What is going on in my life? I can't help it. I'm almost like an addict. It's being aware with yourself. And then you say, okay,
yeah.
And an action
Actually, okay. So we do have to close for today, but I think the awareness, and in AA and Overeaters Anonymous, step number 1 is accepting that you're unmanageable in this area, that your life is unmanageable, meaning you're not in charge of your own life and your own decisions, because you also talk about intention. So we're going to leave that as an answer, the AAA, awareness, action, and in the 12-step groups, it's a lot of accountability. You go into these groups and you immediately have a buddy called a sponsor. So we have to close for now, Sylvie. Sylvie Heyman, author of Make It a Habit, Creating Health and Happiness for Your Body, Mind, and Spirit. And I will speak to you next week, Sylvie. And for all of our listeners, wishing you great relationships.